All right. None of the content on this show is financial advice. No tax, no legal, no kind of investment advice. We're just three random individuals on the internet. Do not click or push any buttons based on what we discuss. Those wallets are only controlled by you, unless you want to share your private seed phrases in the chat. Then we'll go ahead and actually use them. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Byte Show. This week, we're going to be chatting about some major things going on. It's a historic day in the DeFi crypto degen world. How are you gentlemen doing? Grover, thank you so much for joining us. Evan, your ship looks to be a lot nicer this week. You actually have a nice little quality of a mic, and your Wi-Fi seems to be stable.
Whoa, don't jinx it yet. We'll see what happens. I'm just north of the Bermuda Triangle, so we'll see what happens once I get into that zone where people tend to disappear. But you always tend to knock the intro out of the park, Joseph. You do such a good job. It's so smooth and not cringy or weird at all. It's perfect.
Thank you. I've been a seasoned veteran. I've been trained by the best of content creators like yourself and Pete. It's been a real journey. I feel like I've become the Karate Kid of content, especially when it comes to shilling your own bags. And speaking of shilling your own bags, Grover, what's going on with Sei? These are the bags that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Enough Arbitrum token. I want to see what's going on in Sei land.
Sure. Yeah. No. Great to be back. Good to see you guys. Yeah. Extremely busy times. It's say season. And yeah, I think like today has been extraordinarily busy. I think yeah, Arbitrum news, other news about other founders for other projects also popping up on Twitter. And so quite a lot is going on. But I want to refocus everyone on what we're doing on Say as well. And I think yeah, there's more exciting times to come. So yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we haven't. Oh, sorry, Joseph.
No, go for it. Go for it.
I feel like we haven't heard a whole lot about Say, or at least from on this channel or from my perspective, since we saw you. I don't know, what was that, like maybe 5 months ago, 6 months ago? You were working on Vortex, and now you've moved into more of like a total ecosystem role with Say. Is that correct?
That's it. That's exactly it. So, yeah, I'm now working as sort of head of ecosystem, looking from a bird's eye view. Who's deploying on Say? What are they doing? How do we fit the DeFi Lego blocks together and sort of get things rolling with mainnet on the horizon? So it's busy times. Lots to think about and lots of exciting stuff. So yeah, and Vortex, I think, is now being handled by the Sushi team, which is really, really exciting. It's really cool to see those sort of seasoned DeFi OGs come across from Ethereum, and this is something we were pushing for a long time. I think just getting that cross pollination of really strong teams between Ethereum and between Cosmos as well is bullish. So I'm really happy to see that happening.
Want to dig into a little bit of like.
Oh, sorry, Joseph.
I'm sorry. My internet might be the one that's like slow today. So
it's probably mine because I'm in a jail cell actually.
You're in Montenegro, just chilling inside of a nice little jail cell. That's a cushy ass jail cell, if I do say so myself.
It's actually not bad. I don't know why anybody that's been accused of committing crimes would ever just like gallivant around the world with fake IDs. Just go to jail. It's nice.
Just some poor random Asian man just got absolutely popped off.
Starts, it just runs early, and you're not serving any time.
Yeah, I want to dig into a little bit of the component of the ecosystem that you've got over there, Grover. So hearing that you're the head of ecosystem over there, wanted to hear your thoughts about like what types of users you see coming to Say. And one of the key things about Say that actually interests me it's just from a technical tech stack perspective. And I think that Say network is providing probably one of the best examples of how to build with the Cosmos SDK and actually modify the Tendermint system to be an extremely efficient blockchain. Like we're talking about like in testnet activity, you guys are getting like 300 milliseconds TPS or something like that, or 300 TPS. It's something insane. But yeah, just love to hear your thoughts. What type of users are you guys kind of forecasting coming over to Sei-Fi?
Yeah. So I guess the best place to start when it comes to Say and like who's going to use it and what it's built for is that we have this one core thesis, which is that exchanges are the most important app in crypto, on and off chain. So whether you think about Binance off chain or you think on chain with Ethereum, looking at Uniswap, OpenSea, you tend to find that all products are sort of built around that central point, that exchange. And most of the demand from things like Aave is, the reason you take a loan in the first place is probably to go and swap some tokens on an exchange. So, and you think about gaming and NFTs as well. Axie's DEX, Stepan's DEX, OpenSea, Magic Eden, everything sort of revolves around that central exchange. So naturally, so you ask the question, how do you scale DEXs? How do you get bigger? So today they're not really able to with existing layer one infrastructure. So the whole sort of thesis here with Sei is solving the DEX scaling problem. And the way we do that is to build out the best infrastructure for exchanges. And today that looks like a sector specific layer one. And we optimize every single element of the stack for that one key product. So yeah, whether you run like a DeFi DEX, NFT DEX, gaming DEX, you'll have an advantage on Sei. So yeah, I mean, like when we came and said how do we want to approach this? Obviously, you don't want to go from like the very beginning. You don't want to come up with your own consensus, sort of mechanism from the start. So we knew Tendermint and Cosmos SDK as sort of a battle-tested stack based on what happened with Terra. Sort of like the fact has been so resilient throughout all these years, and just made a few key changes to Tendermint primarily. So you have something we call twin turbo consensus, which is a combination of two things: intelligent block propagation and optimistic block processing, which we can get into the weeds with. But yeah, essentially just making a few tweaks to that consensus piece, which allows us to just get much higher TPS, along with parallelization, which is something that so far only Solana and Aptos have implemented. So we'll be the first chain on Cosmos to implement parallelization as well.
Now, from what I can recall, and sorry if this is like a little bit of review, but Sei, at least in the context of like what Vortex was building, is optimized for order books more than like liquidity pools. Is that a correct or fair assessment?
I mean, yeah, you can run an order book DEX on Sei, but you can equally run an AMM, and it will it will benefit from the same kind of advantages that you get for running any kind of exchange. So I think that's one conversation that's like we realized pretty early on, like focusing on like order books versus AMMs is like just a very like it's not a good conversation to be having, because there are advantages to both types of exchange. AMMs, anyone in their grandma can come and add liquidity like by clicking a button. It's very straightforward. But then if you find with order book based DEXs that you, although they're much more capital efficient and you get tighter spreads, it's very hard to sort of get over that cold start problem. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both, but yeah, we'll have both on Sei. You can run any kind of AMM. Some examples of AMMs that might be launching there. I think if you look across Cosmos, you can probably spot a couple, and they'll probably be launching on Sei as well. So yeah, to be honest, like when you're looking at the very first weeks of Sei, I would anticipate that AMMs sort of like get the lion's share there, and then over time, as we sort of build up that liquidity and more users, then that's when the order books kind of start to shine, and you start to see like sort of the differentiation between just like off the shelf Cosmos blockchain versus Sei.
When you look at ecosystems, it's really interesting from a growth perspective, because typically when ecosystems have growth, when they have vectors of adoption, it's usually around the infrastructure of AMMs. They are what bring in users. Typically, other projects will spin off of the capital that actually builds within an AMM. So when an actual AMM builds up that liquidity, builds up that moat, you will have NFT projects, you will have other types of DeFi projects spin up because they actually have liquidity to play with, they have users to play with. But one of the hardest things in like all of broader DeFi is to get market share as an AMM. Like you're competing with the likes of Uniswap, you're competing with the likes of SushiSwap, of course. But obviously, the moat that Uniswap has basically taken SushiSwap's lunch money at this point. And Gary Gensler's coming after the scraps at this point. But I just wanted to hear a little bit about the thesis of being able to tap into those existing moats. Do you believe from just a tech stack perspective, there is an inherent advantage and naturally people will be able to float over to Sei and just realize that at the end of the day, the consumer experience is just flat out superior there?
Yeah. And this is a really important point. I think it'd be wrong of us to say like if we build good infrastructure, people will just turn up and they'll just start using it. the key to all of this and bootstrapping an ecosystem. Of course, you get the essential pieces in here. And by the way, Sei will be open source. Anyone can fork Sei. So like the
Oh,
moat
it'll be
there,
completely open source, like the moment
completely
it goes
open.
live.
Yeah, open source. So anyone can fork Sei. So what is the moat there? It's ecosystem, it's community, and it's interesting applications. And so when I say interesting, of course there are essential primitives that you need on your chain. You need to have lending, you need to have AMMs, you need to have perps, GMX style perps. Like these are kind of like the building blocks, and frankly, GMX style perps are exciting by themselves. But beyond that, it's like, what are your kind of killer apps? What are the apps that do something unique that you can't do anywhere else, and are uniquely interesting and suck in those like 10,000, 100,000 users? And that's kind of where this, some speculation comes into it, but also some of the hype comes into it as well. So we want to sort of foster this kind of environment where people can build interesting applications, and we can talk to them and sort of understand what they're building. And yeah, like I think there's a few cases of that on Sei for sure. Like you've probably seen. Like,
Yeah, why don't we
this stream.
speculate a little bit? Why don't we hype a little bit? Because that was going to be my next
Yeah.
question. I think this is a good segue.
Yeah.
We've heard of Vortex. We've heard of like this boring infrastructure stuff, and anybody can fork Sei, and I'm sure Joseph can fork Sei. He could call it like Great Sei or Gay. That could be your fork,
sailors,
Joseph.
man. I'm gonna make a sailor chain, dude, and we're gonna have an NFT-fi like sailboat game. It's gonna be incredible.
But okay, but aside from your fork of Sei, what's going on in the real deal, Grover? What can we expect? Like, drop the alpha. Make us excited.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a few very interesting ideas being built out here. I mean, the first one that springs to mind, some interesting real world asset projects, some interesting synthetics projects as well. Sort of taking some learnings from projects that have launched on Terra as well as on Ethereum, and sort of bringing together, access to real world assets and sort of being able to trade with assets that are not correlated with crypto necessarily, which is one piece of this. There is it's probably the craziest project that I've seen so far in that, like, a little bit off the wall, is something called Senate DAO. So if you if you took Chili's and you said, instead of sports teams, we're going to have senators, that's an idea another team is building out, which is certainly very interesting, sort of like allowing people to come and speculate around the like these tokens associated with senators. Like this is kind of the off the wall stuff, which we might see. There's a couple of teams thinking about AI, and not necessarily like just throwing it in there. Sort of one team is considering how to give your NFTs like a character, right? So the idea here is that you use something like character.ai, and there's an API there. You can train it's almost like a Pokemon / Tamagotchi sort of an idea here. And now your NFTs actually have a personality, which is powered by ultimately AI. And so like some of those zanier ideas, the gaming side of things as well, is something that I'm really interested in, because if you think about like what does it truly mean to have like what does it mean to have a gaming project on your chain? Well, it's probably exchanging NFTs, which are part of that game. So again, Sei is a good place for gaming projects to come and launch. So there's one project called Fable, and what Fable is essentially a way for existing NFT communities, perhaps, or existing communities in crypto, to step up and become a gaming guild. There's a sort of a framework, sort of like an infrastructure set up here to facilitate battling with other guilds over token emissions. And you almost use this sort of Formula One analogy, where you have racing teams, and now instead of tracks, you have games on different chains. It doesn't necessarily have to be a game that's linked to Sei. We just have to be able to record a result from a game, and that comes back and says, all right, so this team has won that game wherever that game is taking place, and therefore on the leaderboard that sort of is reflected. So you have sort of this infrastructure in place to sort of think about how to bootstrap sort of a gaming community on Sei, in a bit more of a bottom-up approach, rather than sort of saying, oh, we're going to partner with Activision, come and build Call of Duty. Like the completely unrealistic idea for gaming is to come and say, oh, let's build a AAA game. But it's going to take 3 years, and frankly, the studio is going to ask for 7 figures up front to make this a risk-free venture. Like this is the ground up approach of, you already have all of these people in crypto who would be interested in competing and trying to fight over these token emissions. Give them a home, give them a framework, give them the rails to actually compete with each other in a meaningful way. So like there's just like I mean, I've talked a few ideas there, like outside of DeFi. I think that's the key. Yeah, there's for sure like a bunch of ideas outside of DeFi. You'll also see, I mean, there's at least there's a couple of launch pads working on here, thinking about how to bootstrap and get some of these projects moving. You know, using some of the learnings that we learned from Terra, where you have rather than like you'll probably remember the first launches on Terra at the very beginning was something like with Anchor. They just chuck some tokens into an AMM pool, have at it, go for it, guys. That's not like a particularly smart way to launch a project, and so we evolved over time and we got to that sort of liquidity bootstrapping auction. So we want to pick up from there, and then evolve it further. How do you bootstrap liquidity for an order book DEX? This is going to be slightly different to the kind of launches you were seeing at the end of Terra, and sort of, yeah, I mean, so like that's just like a broad, like just dipping toes into a variety of interesting ideas. Yeah, probably too many to talk about in one show, but
all right. So
yeah.
heard about a little bit of the NFT projects you guys have in the pipeline. I'm curious about outside sources of potential gaming solutions, gaming projects. I know the co-founder of Say, he's a ex Robinhood guy, and he's got some probably some deep friendships with some guys at some major gaming studios. Do you guys have anything in the works partnership wise from someone who's like a major gaming studio interested in building in some form of platform on Say? Can you drop that alpha?
So yeah, I mean, it's a very specific question you've got there, Joseph. So I think there's no one. Well, you know, we've certainly spoken to a whole bunch of interested parties to sort of see what we could work out. I know the guys actually went over to Japan for a short while, but there's some, yeah, like first steps, you know.
First steps are starting. That's interesting.
We need to sort of establish that initial community. We need to see. I mean, there are some teams and some guilds from
Yeah.
Ethereum that are very interested in actually operating some kind of a gaming league on Say as well, which we've been in conversations with some of like the top names there.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's for sure like a space we're exploring, seeing what we can facilitate, and you know, who wants to come and build this kind of thing on Say.
That's interesting. I'm sorry for the very pointed question. I'm digging for the alpha here. I'm digging.
Yeah, sounds like you already have it.
I just know that there are some major players coming into the space, and I'm trying to find where they're going. That's all I'm trying to do. That's all I'm going for. I wanted to dig in. I know everyone's obsessed with the Arbitrum airdrop, but enough of Arbitrum. That's so this week, or that's so this morning. Like, we're done with that. It's time to prep for the big one, the big one of the Cosmos ecosystem. I know yesterday, I think it was Ryan Lyon memed that in Cosmos we get friendship bracelets, in Ethereum you get actual tokens. So that's not going to be true the moment that Say actually launches. What are you guys thinking? What's around the corner? What's the kind of the timeline for your guys' airdrop?
Got it. So I probably can't give you a specific timeline at this point. Purely, it is exceptionally soon. You will see the lines under my eyes tell you that that's true. It's exceptionally soon, and so you know, the actual sort of like whether there's an airdrop or not is entirely going to be down to the Say Foundation to dictate. You know, what are the rules around that? Is it going to happen? Like, who's going to get those tokens? I think there's been some hints and some suggestions that there's some activity on incentivized testnet is going to make people eligible for airdrops. I think that there's also suggestions that people from other ecosystems will be eligible for airdrops as well. However, yeah, that's going to come through the Sei Foundation. I would anticipate there would be one. It's certainly what Sei Labs would like to see. So yeah, I think that's probably as specific as I can be at this point in time. But it's definitely one to keep an eye out for.
Now, I'm of the opinion that as a user, it's a lot more fun to, what's the term, fuck around on mainnet than it is on testnet.
Yeah.
And for someone who's trying to use airdrop as sort of like a marketing tool to get users, or at least reward users, you've got an airdrop to mainnet people is kind of like airdropping to people with skin in the game, whereas testnet users, they might be fleeting, right? So and I guess you just said you can't answer a lot of questions, but do you think that there will be, similar to like how Arbitrum just did it, a lot of like mainnet sort of activity that will help users qualify for this upcoming airdrop?
That sounds like a good idea. I think that
right.
sounds like a good idea for someone to do.
And I would say this is probably like the Arbitrum of Cosmos. I might coin that term right now. This will be as big as Arbitrum. This is like Sei is to Cosmos as Arbitrum is to Ethereum, as far as like, you know, not technical, but the hype and the price action and just the amount of people that are going to get in on it. I think it's going to be massive. So buy this token.
As long
financial advice.
Actually, as long as I can actually claim this thing, I'm gonna be happy. Like,
Oh,
don't ruin me and not be able to claim it. That's the only time I will FUD Sei. Is if I can't claim my goddamn
Right.
airdrop.
Yeah, well, you know, just a point of clarification. I would never advocate anyone to do anything specifically with any token at any time. So yeah, like
I'm already in jail, so whatever I say doesn't really matter.
You're already in jail, man. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, like, thanks. I think, yeah, like the way we're looking at it, we're looking at sort of like what's happened with Arbitrum, and there's definitely lessons to be learned from all of the endpoints, like all of the front ends are completely toasted, which is to be expected when you airdrop your token to a large group of IT literate people, and it's in their interest to be the first ones to get there. It's pretty much a given that like everything's going to get fried. So there are definitely lessons there for future airdrops for sure. But yeah, what those are just yet remains to be seen. I think. But yeah, like for sure. I mean, I'm definitely feeling some of the momentum here. You know, getting a lot of support. Like we've got our ambassador program, all the guys in there as well, sort of getting behind the project, which is awesome. And yeah, just gotta convert that momentum into a successful mainnet launch now, right? It's that's the next thing.
I feel like you guys are really well positioned. Someone said it in the chat. Shout out to LCS for saying, hopefully Sei revives Cosmos. Like I hate to be that guy. I've been really down in the dumps with Cosmos lately, especially seeing how frustrated people were with the success of Kanto, bringing interest into just the Cosmos SDK world. And it just makes me bewildered to see that this whole community is just upset when a specific chain attracts liquidity. It's like, we're not chain maximalists, but fuck you if you get liquidity. That's the whole kind of vibe that I've been getting. And I think that Sei really does have that potential to be the chain that does revive, brings in a little bit more of that proof of concept of like, hey, you can build an innovative like blockchain with a new use case and a new business model that's foundational. And I guess as just a random person on the internet talking to you who used to be a former UST maxi, my only suggestion would be to have like a complete open sourceness of like how those arbitrary lines get determined on an airdrop. And I think that's my biggest complaint of the Arbitrum one, is that it's not actually open source. You can't really, I mean, there's a GitHub, like you can go to the GitHub that Nansen published, but it's just a language farce. Like they do not actually go into the formulas. They don't define the individual components of where those arbitrary lines are defined. If I wanted that, I would go get a credit score in like the contemporary business industry or like in the contemporary banking industry. So I guess that's like kind of my biggest thing, is that if Cosmos really wants to like do something really out of this world, build out of this difference is start from the very beginning, make this stuff open source, and actually reward the types of behaviors you want to see. So I think that there's like a huge potential, and I love the way that you guys are thinking about it, about trying to get cross-chain users who are active users of other chains. That way you're getting multiple heuristics of good behavior users, because that's the people you want holding your token.
Yeah, exactly. Like if we had to choose who was holding the Sei token, it would for sure be active DeFi users, people who value governance tokens, that sort of thing. You know, that's the kind of person that is you want on your chain doing things. Yeah, for sure. And really, yeah, the sky's the kind of the limit there, I think. You know, the number of teams here who are like Flipside, like others who are sort of like able to come in and assist with like some insanely useful analytics is also pretty clear. I think yeah, like looking at Canto as well, like just looking at the overall Cosmos space, Canto is super interesting as a case study of, you know, it's EVM enabled, and they basically speed ran the entire Ethereum ecosystem in like 2 months. Like it just kind of happened. And so for sure, like very like super hot to the touch, right? It's kind of seems to be cooling off a little bit now, and just like after that insane burst. You know, excited about Chain as well, seeing what happens there.
Yeah, I've heard
Another
Chain is
one.
actually real, which is surprising.
Well, that's it's going to be difficult because their devs are in prison. However, I think there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff happening with Chain, which I'm going to be watching as well. Really interested in what those guys are doing. And you know, guys like the Kujira team as well. You know, we obviously know them from back on the Terra days, and it's really cool to see them sort of continue to do what they do well. And some very fresh UIs, very sick user experiences. So yeah, like there's lots here, but for sure it's like how do you, like, I think there's a perception that Cosmos is always 2 years behind Ethereum or something like that, but I think that that's going to change pretty quickly. And I think I'm not going to say Sei's the one that does that, but for sure we're going to try and get across
y'all
like
are in the position
all of
for it.
this.
If anyone is, y'all are in the position to do that. That's and that's not a joke. That's like you guys are actually in the position to do that.
I think so. I kind of think so as well. So I think we're yeah, we're in a good spot here. We've got the right brains around the table. We've got the right teams around the table as well to sort of push the envelope a bit as well. And ironically, one place where Ethereum was going to be behind Cosmos very soon is going to be in the liquid staking front. And the liquid staking front is interesting. Like with the Shanghai unlock coming, it's going to be like, okay, how does this change the dynamics of ETH liquid staking? Cosmos is, you know, we've got a lot of strong teams here, Quicksilver, Stride, you know, all the guys are already thinking about this, and they're already pretty far ahead. And we think that one of the craziest things on Cosmos is the amount of Atom that's sitting there. That liquid stake Atom is just this huge pool. If you took the analogy of ETH and the amount of liquid stake ETH that's just used throughout DeFi on Ethereum, and compare it to Cosmos, the amount of Atom that's just kind of sitting there immobile, you know, it's like pretty stark. There's probably like $1 billion of Atom or something like that could be moving, could be being used in different protocols and places across Cosmos. So we think that that's another opportunity just to unlock the existing assets that already live on Cosmos in the first place. So
we're getting a little bit of feedback from your mic, Grover. If you could, I don't know what's going on. If you can move it away from your mouth, maybe. I think it's clipping or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
it's just his voice. That's how he sounds. He's powerful.
It's just how it is. It comes out. He's a robot.
I need to buy a new headset. That's the secret.
After the airdrop, you'll be able to afford one. Everyone's getting by with pennies. There's
another question in the comments I wanted to discuss, because
it's a good one.
What a day to talk about stable coins. We've got Web3 Story, who said, if USDC isn't launched by the time Sei goes mainnet, which stable will Sei use its main base token for its order book? And I want to ask a tag-on question to that. What's up with UXD? Have you guys, I know you were talking about working with them a couple months ago. I was excited about that project. So two-part question for you.
Yeah. So when it comes to stablecoins, there's a host of different options here. The reality is that the majority of liquidity is likely to be some form of USDC and USDT, whether that's Wormhole or Axelar or multi-chain or Seller. You know, these are the kind of the guys that we're talking to as well. as our sort of bridging partners. That is going to be likely the deepest source of stablecoin liquidity as a way of settling up after trades. We also spoken to Agoric. IST is sort of I guess the equivalent of DAI over on Cosmos, which is definitely an interesting decentralized alternative, because that always plays a part in a lot of, not every single project is suited for centralized stablecoins, and not every single project is suited for decentralized stablecoins. So there's a place for both. The second part of the question has slipped my memory. UXD. So yeah, the UXD guys, we've been still maintaining that relationship. They need a perp DEX. So the way that UXD works, just like to break it down quickly, is they provide a delta neutral position. So they back each one of their UXD stablecoins is backed by $1 of collateral, and that collateral is a delta neutral position. They open a short on a perps DEX, and they also hold a long sort of a spot position in something like Bitcoin, or I guess it will be wrapped Bitcoin in this case. And so whether Bitcoin goes up or down, your collateral is still roughly worth $1. And that's always redeemable for your, which is a fun idea. And there's some criticisms of that model, in that the fluctuations in funding rate, obviously to keep that short position open, you need to, if the market conditions are bearish and price is down only, as it has been for the last little while, as long as I can remember, then you are paying funding rate to keep that position open. So during the bull market, it's a very, very good model. During the bear market, it's somewhat dubious. You have to try and earn some yield, right? You need to have some sort of a treasury which earns yield, which counteracts that, or you need to actually just build up this huge sort of insurance fund. Unfortunately, UXD was running this strategy on Mango, on Solana. And so if you guys recall, Mango got exploited pretty badly, and the guys, the model worked. They managed to pay out from the insurance fund. They managed to cover like any kind of losses there. So none of the UXD holders are wrecked by any stretch. However, I think they're just sort of like just watching, see which perp DEXs are going to be the right fit for them, and just making sure that that's the way they want to go, basically.
Gotcha. It's like, man, the more you think about stable coins and some of these delta neutral positions, you're like, man, if only they could just have a treasury with like a bunch of T-bills stuffed in there and just earn the yield off of that and pay the funding with that.
Yeah,
but
yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what we're trying to avoid, I guess, in the long run.
Yeah, the stablecoin question is a deceptively difficult question. Yeah, it's exactly that. I mean, I've seen suggestions on crypto Twitter. Why don't we just upload $1 to the blockchain? And I said that's a very good idea. Just put it in your disk drive and off we go. But
just scan it. Just scan it.
Just scan the dollar. But it's what do you back your stablecoin with? It's a tough question because you lie somewhere in between, like having an entity and exactly it's centralized. So does this really provide what you're looking for? There's a couple more teams that are looking at sort of purely decentralized, like the Denom team. There's a guy Nala who I think you're pretty familiar with, and his team. So they're thinking about some sort of a decentralized, not exactly pegged, and I think they wouldn't want to call it a stable coin either. In fact, IST is a stable token. That's also another clarification point. Stable token. So I mean, like there are a bunch of designs, but in practice, if with mainnet coming pretty soon, we want a liquid unit of account for people to settle back to after they've closed their trades, and in reality, it's going to be one of these a centralized stablecoin. But for sure, like this is the kind of thing that we want to see solved, and new ideas and new sort of designs being pushed and developed.
Not to go too far off the rails here with like wacky theories, but I do feel like at some point, hopefully in my life, the next big problem that will be solved will be like this decentralized network of custodians that maybe they're in like whatever countries across the world, distributed across the world, and there's just like some inconceivable technology that I can't even think of right now that comes out that solves one, the stablecoin problem, and two, the on and off ramp like centralization problem, and it just solves both of those problems in the same kind of fell swoop. Maybe it's already been invented with Bitcoin, but you need like a stable, right? You need like that stable thing still while the U.S. hangs on to its to what looks like the beginning of the end of its world domination of the reserve currency, and people laugh at that, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
I worry that they come for our coins. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that in our lifetime we see an actual federal government trying to seize crypto assets. They've done it
How are
with
they going to
gold in the past.
How are they going to seize my Bitcoin? I don't even own any Bitcoin.
Exactly. But I mean, like, I'm saying, like, they will ban you from your bank account. They will find what bank you currently have your mortgage on, and they will ban you from having your mortgage, or like they will try to seize your home assets, anything that you live your life through the dollar. Like, I know you have your Bitcoin like in your sovereign wallet, but they'll still try to find.
I don't have Bitcoin. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm in jail, dude. They took everything from me already. I'm lucky I have a shirt.
Before you walked into the cell, they shook you down and all your Bitcoins fell out. So like they have.
I'm lucky they gave me this microphone.
You had to do a lot in jail for that microphone. All right, Grover, we got a nice little comment here in the chat coming in, and I've got it's coming from Web3 Story. Will Sei be working with dedicated market makers similar to that of Injective? Will there be incentives to bring in those market makers, or AMMs like Ash Report will feed initial liquidity? And I kind of want to tack onto that a little bit, just kind of because this is kind of hits deeper onto that paradigm of thinking of competition in Sei. And I know that one of the unique components to Sei is that you guys aren't building a native DEX to the actual network. You're opening that up to competition. And so that allows for there to be this kind of like competitive edge for AMMs to be like, all right, we're going to have better market makers than the other one. So just wanted this is a great little like insight into kind of that deep DeFi game theory that's going on over there.
Yeah. So exactly that. So yeah, Sei won't have its own, like the Sei Labs team does not build a DEX. It doesn't have a front end. It doesn't have any anywhere for you to swap tokens. We're purely providing the infrastructure. But what we also do have is a decent network here of market makers. And so I think we've just started a campaign. Actually, I can't remember what we called it now. This the Liquidity Alliance, which is essentially just market makers who are happy to market make on chain. Who want to come and talk to different DEXs, talk to different protocols about like what that team wants to sort of do in terms of like market making. If they want to go that route, they can go and they can talk to a good list. We can put them in touch with a good list of market makers. I mean, if you look back at our initial raise, like the Sei seed round was led by Multicoin and GSR and basically flow traders, all these different market makers who are sort of household names and can we can put you in touch with those. We also do something I'm pretty bullish on overall is this idea of decentralized market making or decentralized providing liquidity to strategies and sort of outsourcing this, because of course whenever a DEX goes ahead and says, Mr. Market Maker, we're going to lend you some tokens, we'd like you to market make, and they want to look for some kind of incentive and some kind of like deal here to sort of make that happen. It's sort of like, well, is there a way to sort of outsource some of this? Is there a way to sort of open this up to let more people come and provide liquidity? And so, for a long time, a good few, when we're looking at Vortex as well, teams like Hummingbot, Elixir, just like these market making vaults, a little bit like I want to say Atrix, Bo on Kujira as well, like these ideas of there is a strategy that's running 24/7. You can come and have a simple interface which just says which market you're providing liquidity to. There's like a clearly displayed APY projection that the team comes up with, and you can just provide tokens one-sided or two-sided. And so I'm pretty bullish on that idea overall. But of course, like to get over the cold start problem, you probably need to, for an order book DEX, talk to professional market makers just to get that initial sort of deep liquidity. And because the user experience is entirely dictated by how much slippage am I going to get on this trade. And if you turn up and you've got, I'd like to make it $20. I would like to buy $20 of a token, and you get like 10% slippage. You're just like, well, what the hell is the point of this? I'm going to go to my AMM because it's a better user experience for me. So yeah, setting those KPIs is something that a lot of DEXs on the order book model have to contend with, and for the time being, probably talk to a centralized market maker about.
Interesting. Okay.
I think that's a great segue for the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is the um, if you look online now, there's a couple rumors circulating that Do Kwon got arrested. Grover, how do you feel about that?
I'm not sure where this segue's come from, Evan. Yeah,
What a
no.
smooth ass segue.
I yeah, it's definitely gossip. Man, I don't have no idea. Really, like we'll see what happens, and we'll see if it's true or not. But yeah, just I guess it's just sad, like the whole situation there. Yeah, you know, because looking back at the sort of the Terra, this is where I guess we first sort of spoke was when I was working on Terra projects, and it's just sad to see where it's kind of gotten to now. But I have heard that the bull market starts with the arresting of founders from previous bull markets. So that's the silver lining if it is true. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? What's your guys' take?
I mean, I feel bad for his family, genuinely. I
Yeah,
do feel bad for his family. I feel bad for him as an individual. But I also do feel like there is definitely some blame to be had on like side of TFL. Personally, I mean, if you dig into those transactions, you do actually do a little bit of digging. There was a little bit of sus shit. That's my personal opinion. And I guess like my personal interpretation of the data says that there was a little bit of hawking of money. And who knows? Maybe it did go to operational costs. But it still is a question of matter of ethics and moral lines there. Who knows? Who knows if he's actually responsible? We'll see. That's my personal take. I do believe that if Do Kwon was a nefarious character from the very beginning, the problem mission statement that he was trying to solve is not a nefarious problem, and it is a real systemic problem to DeFi. And I think that having that decentralized money is completely vital. And when we saw the closure of Sovereign Bank and we saw that USDC had a vast majority of their collateral just completely frozen, and they actually were starting to have like a massive depeg, and everyone thought that USDC was untouchable. So I think that problem and that mission statement that Do Kwon said after is a real problem, and I think that's what I fell in love with the mission of UST for. And I think that it's going to continue being a problem that needs to be solved.
yeah,
And Say's gonna have to encounter that problem as well. Because
yeah.
can we really say that we have a decentralized financial system if we're basing it all off of a dollar peg that is clearly compromised by centralized vectors?
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's a couple of things. Like when I saw the USDC news the other week, and sort of like this whole situation of like the banks being like tied to the performance of the stablecoin pretty damn closely. I was thinking, well, look, it goes back to a little bit of the 2017 mentality of take your profits back to Bitcoin. That's your unit of account, and that's what people want to hold instead of feeling like they have this $1 represented on chain in some way. So like fundamentally, maybe that is the way to go. Maybe it is that we don't actually have something which is stable pegged to a dollar at all. But I think at the same time, I totally agree. Like if you know the original white paper, Satoshi Nakamoto, what is he trying to do? Like he's trying to figure out how to do cross-border payments with Bitcoin, and it's a payment, it's a payment network. I think so. It's sort of transformed over time into this thing about it's gold on the blockchain or something like that. But I still think that is it was an attempt to solve that initial problem, which is
Yeah.
like you say a really important one.
Yep.
Evan,
And
what's your take?
I just am amazed every day at everything that was done with Bitcoin and sort of the genesis of Bitcoin, and how like just small details like Satoshi having a wallet with 1 million Bitcoin in it that is never touched, and it's like almost proof positive there that like this is really a decentralized community. It's not worth it for founders to be public. Like I see so many people that are like, oh, this team's anon, the team needs the docs before I invest in the token, or like this I saw Grover out there representing Sei on YouTube in front of millions of viewers. He's putting his neck on the line and willing to go to jail. Why isn't this team ready to go to jail with Grover and sit in the jail cell next to him? And but you know, I get it. I get why teams would be anon. I get why I don't know. It's just a shame that like then you see like the SEC coming out against who is the latest one? There was one yesterday, I think, right?
Coinbase, yeah.
And it's like everyone just add them to the list, and it's like, all right, like you guys have been so helpful in like protecting everyone from these illegal securities for the last 10 years, and now you're going to sue everyone after.
They gave the golden
Whatever.
they gave the golden fucking passageway for FTX, the one that was notoriously the worst one of them all. And arguably it just screams that SBF was the fall guy for like some fucking NSA attempt to bring down a decentralized unit of account. That's the crazy part to me, is that it probably wouldn't surprise me as FBF was just so fucking stupid, or just didn't see that the people that he was making deals with were actually just going to use him as the fall guy. That's my personal take on it.
I have speculated that as well, because I just thought it was kind of weird that SBF came out of nowhere. And if you look at like the advertisements for FTX, it was just like his face, and there's nothing like aesthetically appealing about SBF's face. He's like a clown character. And so why would they like make him the face of the brand so
Good
hardcore?
Good question.
That clown. Yeah.
I think, like FTX is just a case of just pure fraud, like straight up pure fraud. And I don't know.
LCS says SBF is pretty hot, so somebody out there thinks that.
You know, everyone's got a soulmate. This is evidence that everybody on this planet has one soulmate at least, and LCS is SBF's soulmate, because they're the only person who finds his face attractive.
Two 3-letter names.
Oh yeah, they're
LCS
meant to be.
What? All right. Well, that's a good. I think that's the perfect segue actually to talk about the next topic, which is the Arbitrum airdrop. Joseph, you were screaming before we went live about how you couldn't even claim your Arbitrum airdrop.
Yeah.
I'm ready to hear you bitch and complain. But Grover, what's your take on the Arbitrum airdrop? Were you able to get in and claim directly from the contract and bought it and sell it and all that?
Well,
fun
I
stuff?
have 10 different screens here, Evan. One screen for every wallet, and then I have at least 12,000. And I haven't done anything at all. I might claim it at some point, but I'm just not even getting involved. It's just too crazy, and it's the same thing. It's just pure frustration of trying to claim the thing, and then like, you know, you see people saying, well, pointing out in a very matter-of-fact way, if you claim the airdrop and it's a certain dollar value and then it dumps, then perhaps you owe more taxes than you actually get from selling it in the first place. So, you know, like I'm not getting involved whatsoever. Maybe I'll go claim it in a week's time, right? Something like that. But yeah, how about you guys? Are you getting stuck in? Are you trying to front run or spam or DDoS any sites today?
I couldn't
I had
claim.
to go to some shady site. I'm trying to find it here.
If you just type in Arbitrum into Google, you're gonna get rugged the moment that you hit search on Google. Like it's real bad.
Well, right. So I went to Plutus DAO, PLUTUSDAO. This is not advice to go do what I did.
Please,
but I went
swear
Plutus
to God, dude,
DAO,
if anyone leaves comments saying that they lost their Arbitrum allocation, I'm going to fucking I'm gonna DDoS them. I'm gonna get a bot and just ruin their lives. So
Plutus DAO, I mean, they had 17.3 thousand followers on Twitter, and people were talking about it in the comments. Look, if this would have been a scam, they did a fucking fantastic job. But they built an Arbitrum claiming front end, and so I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm just gonna try this out. Who cares? So I went to it, and then I had to like gas up my transaction, and I actually claimed it. And to go sell it,
the NSA is coming for him.
It was just like a total nightmare. And then went to sell it on 1inch. Was my connection bad?
It's cutting in and out. I think you might be back.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I went to sell my airdrop on 1inch, and the U.S. government struck with their protection of me again. And then I had to update my VPN, and oh my god, it was a nightmare. And of course, I did all of that in a video game. I didn't do any of that in real life. So
this is all just a video game. It's all an elaborate video game.
It was all I did all that in my dreams last night. So
Grover, speaking of taxes, you mentioned tax concerns. What were those tax concerns, and under what system?
Okay. Well, again, I'm not a tax advisor. However, this is my take. If you receive an airdrop at a certain dollar valuation, then you are taxed at that moment. In terms, if you do, which you should, your tax returns. Again, I'm not a tax advisor. Um, then yeah, you might find that actually, if you sell it. So, for example, if it's just red candles straight down, you claim it, and at the moment you claim it, it's $8, and then you don't sell it until it's worth 20 cents. Well, GG, you've just really played yourself. In some jurisdictions, under some conditions, please consult a professional. So that's my take there.
Oh shit. Okay. Now I'm actually maybe Arbitrum did me a tax favor by not letting me claim that thing, because I definitely was considering paper handing that. Compared to other altcoins, I think that anything under, obviously don't listen to me. If anyone fucking buys this coin, it's not my fault and you lose money. Like, it's not my fault. But my dumbass thinks that like if it's under $1, then it's like a steal compared to other shitty coins like
Whoa,
Optimism.
you heard it. Under $1, it's a steal. Buy, buy,
Dude,
buy, buy, buy.
I
Set
hate
your limit
not
order at
endorse.
99
Do
cents
not
right now
endorse.
based on Joseph's financial advice.
Oh my god.
Joseph, I hope you have a
Optimism.
fake ID if you're going to any airports in Montenegro anytime soon.
Dude,
Oh
I'm gonna have to run away from. I'm gonna have to run away from this, but I'm not a financial advisor, so no one buy the shitty token that I'm telling them to buy. But anything that is close to optimism and is obviously better than optimism, I am going to bid that thing to Valhalla.
Obviously better than optimism. More financial advice we heard. Short optimism. Set your limit orders for Arbitrum.
Dude, I hate
at
optimism.
99
I
cents.
hate optimism. I hate them as a foundation. I hate them as a blockchain. If anyone from
Wow.
Optimism is watching, I'm sorry, but really hate them. All right. What do you guys want to talk about? I feel like I don't have a flip side inside of the week this week. I'm just shitting.
Oh,
on
I was
Optimism
waiting
at
for
this
you to do
point.
that so we could wrap this up.
Oh no, I don't have like any flip side inside of the week.
What's the most interesting data you've seen in the last week, Joseph? That you sat down and went, "Huh, that's interesting."
It was probably, it had to have been the Arbitrum airdrop data that I saw. The average the average airdrop amount that people got was about 625 arb. Like that was the biggest bucket of Arbitrum users. And then I also looked into the way that they define civil hunting, or Cybele hunters, or just like people who were airdrop hunting. And they just gave us like basically these shitty JPEGs, like in the GitHub. They gave us these shitty JPEGs of like the paths that they defined, what considered to be like an actual like Cybele hunter. And sure, like if you look at those images, you're like, oh yeah, those guys are obviously airdrop hunters. But it's like, I don't think you captured good users as much as you could have. I think that trying to just go for the obvious cases is not the best route. I think that they could have gone a little bit further, and then on top of that, they didn't even disclose the arbitrary lines that they decided to consider it to be like, this is what a daisy chain airdrop farmer looks like. This is what a sporadic airdrop farmer look like. They didn't open source any of that, so that's kind of my 2 cents right now. A little upset about that, but overall, despite the network issues, I think it's probably been one of the better airdrops that we've seen in terms of like actually distributing and like rewarding users. I traded a little bit on GMX and I got a sizable little pouch, and I feel super rewarded for that.
It's yeah, it's bullish for crypto. It's great to see like these big airdrops land. It's one of the ones that people have been waiting for a long time, and it definitely just feels like everything is happening at once, as of the last couple of weeks for sure. So like this is just the next thing that's happening, and who knows what's going to happen next week. I think Kobe tweeted something like, some of you are right, don't trade in February or March. He's probably going to say April as well at this rate. So yeah, that's exciting times, but doesn't feel like a bear market anymore. That's not financial advice, but it doesn't.
It's always a bear market if you're in optimism. So that's my take. All right, folks.
You're always optimistic.
Dude, they don't even have optimistic rollups. They say that they've made them. They say they market that. They market that they have them. But if you dig into the documentation, they're like, yeah, we haven't actually released them. Like, it's like, it just makes me so upset.
Isn't that the whole reason it's called optimism?
Yes, it is the whole reason that it's called optimism, but they truly haven't deployed an optimistic rollup on the stack. Like, they haven't actually rolled it out. In order to have an optimistic rollup, you have to be decentralized in that system, and they just don't have it. obviously this is my personal opinion. This is my personal opinion, not associated with any other company or anyone else. This is just my personal opinion on Optimism. I think that their marketing of their tech stack is rather obscured and unfair, and consumers do not know what they're buying into. I think that their thesis of like the Optimism tech stack is a valid thesis. I think that it's a good idea to say, hey, you can come spin up your own deployable EVM. I think the Coinbase release on Optimism stack is genius, but I just think that the way that they market the actual Optimism tech stack is nefarious. That's just my take.
I think the red pill on any of these rollups is to say, well, look, a sequencer is just another way of saying validator. And that's basically it.
Yeah.
Here's my red pill on these rollups. If you're going to use Ethereum, you might as well just use a layer 2 anyway. Who gives a shit? Because you've already pretty much given up you've already like lost the initiative on using a decentralized network that can't be shut down. So why not just, that's going to piss off everyone in Ethereum mainnet, but whatever. Why not just go to the layer 2 and then go to the layer 3 and then you can go to the layer 4 that's controlled by like one guy in a computer, but if number go up, who cares? You're already using Ethereum.
Layer 5s as a service. That's a good product idea. You can run one off your laptop or something like that. That'd be pretty interesting. Great. All right.
All right. Okay. Well, you heard it here. Joseph, on behalf of Flipside Crypto, said Optimum is trash. Optimism is trash. Man. He also said,
please do not
buy Arbitrum at 99 cents. Set your limit orders. Sei is going to be a massive airdrop. It's going to be bigger than any other airdrop on Cosmos ever. You guys aren't doing friendship bracelets, are you, Grover?
We are not doing any Sei Labs themed friendship bracelets. No.
Are you guys doing a sailboat NFT series? Like, because like if you guys are doing actual unique sailboats, like, and they come on, that's like a huge marketing ploy. Let's be honest.
Look, so far we've done 2 NFT runs on testnet, right? So we've done the Dawn and Dusk pictures, and we've also done the Sunken Treasure NFTs. And who's to say we won't do more NFTs in the future that people might want to be interested in?
Interesting. All right, you heard it here first.
You should do little like Navy characters like Popeye and
that'd be cool.
Like that. Yeah.
There's a lot of design space around this, but what and this is Grover talking now. I don't like to see more punks or more doodles. I want to see original art. I think that's what's interesting, and people want to see like someone's actually thought about this for 5 minutes rather than just copy pasting more punks and running them back. I see that and go, oh, great, thanks.
Cool.
So that's me taking a shot. This current Sei ecosystem. Stop copying punks. Do something.
You heard it here first, folks. Grover's personally going to launch his own punks collection on the Sei network. So if you guys want the airdrop of that collection, you have to DM him on Twitter. So that's how we're going to roll it.
Sounds good. Right. Sounds good. But yeah, no, it's good to catch up with you guys, and let's keep rolling. We've been through an entire bear market now, so let's see where we can go next.
If you wanna send anyone else towards their dismay, towards Sei, where should they check out? Where should they find more information? How should they get involved?
So I would recommend 1, obviously following Sei Network on Twitter. 2, join our Discord. We have an ambassador program which has got some nice tiers and it's all nice and structured, and you can see exactly what you're going to get if you level up through that ambassador program. We're actually rolling out Atlantis 2.0 this week, or possibly early next week. But that is a refresh to the whole ambassador program, which makes it even more enticing and interesting. So definitely come and get involved. Then, of course, we're going to run more missions on testnet, and we're actually going to start rolling out some apps for you to try on Atlantic 2. Atlantic 2 is our second and final testnet, which has got all of the features that we've talked about so far. So optimistic block processing, parallelization, intelligent block propagation, all of these things are on Atlantic 2, and it's the final version of Sei's testnet.
All right, we'll burn you at the stake if that's true. If it isn't true that this is the final one, so well, I'll come and get you, bud.
That's all right. That's all right. As you can see, I'm in my very, very easy to identify glowing lab in the top of a tower somewhere.
Yeah, I'll find you. I'll find you. I know where Evan is out in the ocean. He claims to be heading to like the Bermuda Triangle. I think he's off the coast of like the Italian peninsula right now, low key. So
I'm actually in jail in Montenegro.
oh boy. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the this week's Byte Show. There will be links in the description of the live stream, shooting you guys over information on the Sei tech stack, how to get involved with the testnet, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you next week.